What's good, people? Welcome back to my Immigrant Diary, the podcast where we talk immigration story, the wins, the struggles, the confusion, and the glow ups. Today, we're just going to do something different and stay with us and have a great time. Wale, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a very interesting start of the year so far. Generally, in the world, especially in the United States, regarding especially topics around immigration and everything, I'm sure there is a lot of things that we could talk about. But for me, I think one of the highlights is that this week is probably the hottest week in January so far. So for me, that's the highlight. So I'm loving the warm weather, or pseudo warm weather, and it's supposed to be the coldest. January is supposed to be the coldest month, but we do have like a couple of days that are hot. All okay to walk around and enjoy. So yeah.
I'm surprised that's happening, where you are. But
Well, you guys, you heard about the cold you guys are going through.
yeah, we got a snowstorm over the weekend, and it's crazy. That's the most snow I've seen in my life. I experienced it was just all over the place. It's but today's packed. I just want us to jump right into it, and the first thing on our agenda is the U.S. deep freeze. Now that sounds like the title of a movie. No, it's deep
Because
freeze.
you just experienced a snowstorm.
Exactly, like because the experience is snowstorm, it kind of works out, right? It's like we're having a snowstorm and we're talking about the US deep freeze. What does the deep freeze mean? It simply means 75 country immigrant visa frozen by the Trump administration. Wally, what this means is there are 75 countries. If you want to check the list, it's going to be in the description. But what this means is that all these countries that have been listed, that the visa process have been frozen, the immigration visa specifically the immigration visa means they cannot, get immigration visa, especially for those who are doing consular processing. And consular processing simply means people who are abroad trying to apply for the visa to come to America. The impact of this is very broad. For instance, there are many organizations who get foreign workers to come to the US who at this moment cannot come into the US for many of those 75 countries. And it is literally insane. People are freaking out right now. The internet has gone ballistic about it. But the sad part of it is even if the visa has been approved and has not been, and your passport have not been picked up from the consular processing office, it will be cancelled. Like that's how insane this is. But it's crazy, and let's get your take on this.
Yeah, when I heard of, I think we did speak about it a little bit in one of the videos that we did in the past, and this is something that I would say that generally speaking, it's not surprising, but still surprising at the same time. It's not surprising that some countries visa applications is paused from those countries or suspended from those countries, because in the first Trump administration that actually happened. In the second Trump administration, I'm not surprised that it is happening again. But what is surprising is that what you said, that immigration visa applications are also paused, and that means that even for countries where you have a situation where for example, Afghanistan has always been a hot topic because, for security reasons, and a lot of Islamic State countries are on the list because for security reasons. That has always been a part of U.S. immigration history. That's there are hostile people in those. Not all of them, of course, are hostile, but they are hostile people from those nations that America is worried about. So those ones are understandable, but there's just a lot more that has been included now. And while I was going through X, I did see some posts about what may be the reason. I came across a post. I'm not sure if you're, for those of us that are watching are not aware, there's a lot about the Somali, a lot of news about Somalis in Minnesota right now, especially around fraud. And the argument is that most of at least what the government is saying is that they first of all, they've even suspended, I'm not sure if we're going to get to that topic here, they've even suspended temporary protection status for Somalis in Minnesota. So because of the huge amount of fraud that they found that is being perpetuated specifically by people from Somalia. So how justified that is, I don't know, but that's something that we know that has been happening. And then you have a lot of situation with other countries, migrants from other countries that the Trump administration are also accusing that they are also taking advantage of the welfare system in one way or another in the country. Again, I've not gone into the details of those stats that I did see online or that the president posted about immigrants from which country, how much a percentage of immigrants are using welfare and things like that. So there's a lot. So there are different news, different things that I would say that, like, as far as the Trump administration is concerned, justifies the reason why they want to suspend visa applications from those countries. So for me, as an immigrant, it's not something. It's something that I hope that they'll be able to fix as quickly as possible, because I understand how difficult it is and how strenuous it is for a lot of people to apply for these documents, especially those who want to apply legally. Imagine you're already coming from a country where the United States sees as a security threat. For example, maybe you did support like some sort of US policies, and now the ruling government, for example, in Afghanistan, now the ruling government is after your life. So those kinds of people are going to be, it's going to be a very big deal for them. There's just so many fallouts from this that, it does affect people. But as far as the Trump administration is concerned, they are concerned about a lot of security for Americans. So I also need to be aware of those things that are happening in the United States. A man and a woman was shot in DC. It raises the alert of the Trump administration and say, okay, fine, we need to do something to stop this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ali. I mean, there are a lot of concerns from the Trump administration, but for this particular case, for the 75 countries, what was officially stated by the government was that for security review, public charge basically just the dependent for immigrants that depends on government support. But there's no real data out there really to support that number, right? There's no confirmation of how many immigrants are depending on the government after immigrating and moving into the US. There's no data out there right now to say, hey, this is the percentage of immigrants that are using and taking advantage of public charge, which is also taxpayers' money. So, but that's the statement. That's what the statement that was given to say, hey, that's why these 75 countries are being, the immigrant visa policy has been frozen, for them. So, which is a deep freeze. Now, for the first time in over a decade, there's a decline in immigration into the US. Over the last 10 years, immigration has consistently increased and grew. We know how from the first, as soon as the president stepped into the office, he signed several executive orders, grant the border patrol agents, ICE, they went on the street and they started, picking people, deporting. And there are so many people that self-deported. There are people that, couldn't come to the country. And if you remember, during Trump, the last administration, there were thousands and thousands of people at the border, Mexico. Honestly, the last report I saw about that, there was literally nobody there, right? Like they turned people back, like you cannot come to the country. And so that has reduced significantly. That's why for the first time in decades, there's been a decline in immigrant coming to the US. But that's what's happening right now. What's your take on this?
Is the talk about those who are illegal or undocumented, or is it for those who have who applied, whether through visitors or migrant visas?
There's no clear indication of the category. It's just in a whole bucket, the bucket of immigrants, really, because right now the data in America from pure research from the data they put out there says there are about 50. As of January 2025, there were 53.3 million, about that number, 53 million immigrants in America, which accounts for about 15% of the workforce. But by June, it was estimated that there were about 51 plus million people, immigrants in America, meaning that over a million people have left the country, either deported, either voluntarily left the country, either were prevented from coming back into the country. Like there's been a significant decline in people that have been pushed out of the country. This is not to talk about people trying to come to the country, and I'll put a link in the description. You can go look at the research and read a bit. People can go look at it and read a bit more on the story.
Yeah, well, I won't be surprised, but I think if I understand correctly, it's about net migration, meaning that there are more people that moved out of the United States than moved in. So in that sense, even if I'm going to think, even if it's just legal migration, just because of the, I would say the approach that the Trump administration is having towards migration, we just talked about, the frozen visas, whether it's visitor or migrant visas from all these countries, and so many other things that is happening. That especially if people are looking out from wherever they are in the world. It doesn't really matter whether you're in the West or you're in Asia, you're in Africa. If you're looking out into the US, for you, it's a sign that like the US is no more, at least in this period of time, it's not welcoming. So for me, that's definitely understandable. Before now, I can speak about Nigerians. It's really a lot of Nigerians that apply for American visas. Before now, like most Nigerians don't get visas. Most people that apply for visas.
Oh yes, even in India, most people that apply for visas don't get the visas.
Yes,
so I don't come to US. We're talking about the US visa actually.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know the numbers. So I researched it a long time ago, but I can't really give you a figure right now. But imagine before, let's say, assume the number is like 20% of visa applicants are approved. Now, with all this new approach and policies from the Trump administration, if you're going to apply, it takes a lot of investment for you to apply and spending a lot of money that is usually way more expensive on the other side of that world than here, when you're comparing the value locally. You look at it and you say it's not worth it. Let's just not do this. And you have to now think about other ways that you can use your money and other countries that you can probably spend your money at. Generally speaking, it's understandable. Again, the United States, like a lot of people say, the United States is a and I'm not sure even not saying a lot of people, Americans understand that the United States is a nation of immigrants. And we acknowledge that, we love that, we build the culture based on those kind of notions. So with these kinds of policies, it's more or less like America is shifting away from that. At least the way I'm interpreting it, so I might be wrong, but it looks like America is shifting away from being a nation of immigrants. It's not really worth investing the time and money into this.
Well, interestingly, I would say that given all we've said, I think that's what has also led to a current trend, which is what is called the reverse migration, right? I know we mentioned a bit of it in as we're talking about, the countries that has been listed on the deep freeze. And one of the things that is evident is that as a result of all of these policies and the impact on people's life, beyond that, because there's also, the economy right now is not awesome right now with all the challenges that are happening here and there, the price of, with all the tariffs and the cost of goods going up, a lot of families are facing challenges. Not to talk about, the immigration eyes just going around raiding and, arresting illegal immigrants and also deporting them. There are people, there are several trends on the internet. I've seen that on social media, and even on Twitter, on Instagram and TikTok. I've seen people who share the story of reverse migration, who have just picked up their bag, picked up their family, some single, some married with families, and just moved back to places like Mexico, Nigeria, India. I know of someone who, couldn't renew his work permit, and they were already planning to buy a house. They couldn't renew their papers, and they had to just move all their stuff and move back to India. But the good news for him was he was able to get a job in some other country and move there. But not everyone will have that kind of opportunity to kind of find a new job, maybe in the West. Some people will have to move back to their country. In Africa, like I mentioned, Nigeria, Ghanaian. And there's so many stories out there. It's a trend. It's like a trend right now, like reverse migration. Nigeria will call it, some people call it reverse jackpot or something like that. Just to say, hey, I've gone back, and people just some people are showing the story of it's not that bad for them, but hey, how it is. It's the one we see. Not everyone tells their story. But the truth of the matter is that there's a trend. And if you've seen that trend, please, drop a comment and let us know your take on that trend. Let me know what you think, Wally.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. America is one of the few countries in the world where there's a lot of hustle culture, even like in corporate environment, there's a lot of hustle culture. So I can definitely see the attractiveness, especially when you want to move, thinking about moving outside to another country, maybe a place like Europe. And in Europe, like the culture, for me, the way when I lived in Europe, the way I saw the culture, especially the work culture, it's that they work hard and they play hard. In Europe, like you work very, very hard within your time limit, whether it's 8 hours, 9 hours, depending on the kind of work you do. But once you are done with work, you're done with work. Your weekend is your weekend. Your break is your what's it called, time off, or your vacation is your vacation. That's one of the differences. One of the, I would say, what could attract someone to move to a place like Europe where they want to be able to enjoy time with the family, and also they want to be able to enjoy time with work. But in America, like there's a lot of overtime, like that a lot of people do, and it's part of the culture. So for them, this is great. In Europe, overtime is not good, so nobody wants to do the overtime.
So you're saying Europe doesn't have the hustle culture like the Americans, right?
No, they do work hard. So
Uh-huh.
that's
Okay.
what, like, there's a very clear line separation between work and my time.
Yeah, there's a lot of work-life balance. It's like a big deal. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, yeah. So for them, that's the thing. Like, so if you definitely, of course, if you want to do some extra work, generally speaking, nobody's going to stop you. But like, it's not expected of you. In America, it's almost expected of you. Like, if you're gonna grow up in the ranks, you are expected to put in overtime. So those are the kind of differences that you have over there, compared to Europe. So I can see why it's definitely attractive to move to a place like Europe, for example.
All right, nice. Okay, so now let's switch gear, right? Because the next story got the internet arguing, right? This is crazy. A Canadian content creator secured O-1B visa, which is the extraordinary ability visa, largely based on social media influence, right? It's obvious that the landscape is changing. It is mad. Even when I saw the story, I couldn't believe it. I still don't want to believe it, but it is true because of the source. And everything we talk about, we'll drop the link in the description. People can go look at it. But it is wild that social media influence has become a yardstick and can be tendered as part of the requirement to meet the eligibility for extraordinary ability visa. While it is crazy, I'm going to dive more into the story. But what's your thought on this?
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the article right now.
So basically, this is wow. This lady, she one of the requirements for extraordinary talent, like extraordinary talent visa, right? It is largely for people who are in, movie industry, people because they're trying to, act movies and commercial creation, media creation, and all of that kind of industry, right? Specifically, right? People in the art industry. But it is obvious that the narrative is shifting because in this case, this lady is able to prove that she's got a viral content that had over 11 million views, over 200,000 engagement. And so that was part of what she submitted to meet the eligibility for the visa category. And also, what is required is to show high earning within that space. Of course, within the industry, because she's a glam influencer, right? Within that category, she earns significant amount of money, and the US granted her the visa. And so the argument is like, is talent not enough? Because there are people who have secured 2 master's degree, PhD degree that couldn't even secure, visa. They're like, so without any quote unquote obvious talent, apart from a beautiful face, a beautiful body, is able to get a visa. So that's got the internet wild. But it's crazy, and this is the reality of what the world is today. But beyond that, it meets the requirements. So we can argue left and right, but the professionals are saying it meets the eligibility requirement. She was able to present this For a eligibility requirement, it's not about the opinion, it's about the facts. And based on the facts, she meets it and she was able to get the visa.
Well, again, I just went through the article a little bit quickly, and one of the things that she used to apply was a video that obviously emphasized like her bosoms, like really emphasizes. So I can imagine why people are upset. So a lot of people, you said earlier, like people have like multiple degrees in master's, PhD, especially professionals and people in other industries that they've worked out for a very long time to perfect their craft. They're very good at it. They still couldn't apply for an extraordinary ability visas. So that's one thing. I can understand why people are upset about that. And people do understand like actors, because that's a cultural thing. That's a part of an accepted culture that actors are more valued because they depict or they act in movies or shows or theaters or things that talk about the culture, and culture is what defines a lot of people. So people do understand that. So if you're coming from wherever it is that you're coming from, you apply for this kind of visa and you show the other proofs that you need to be able to apply for visas. Those category of people understand and will likely get it. And I'm pretty sure like even musicians from Nigeria, that's the kind of visa that they would apply for whenever they are coming from Nigeria to perform in the US or any other parts. So even in most of that, I'm not sure if there's an extraordinary ability visa.
Yeah, in other countries like in Europe, they kind of have similar visas, but just maybe named differently. But for the US, it's called the extraordinary ability visa. Yes.
Yeah. So those one's category I understand, but she's just the first. I'm not sure if she's the first one, but she's the one that. And influencers generally are not really regarded by a lot of people as being, I would say, more or less beneficial to a society. And that's something I would say that a lot of people are concerned about. And if you take, of course, the lady's beautiful. She has a beautiful body. She has a beautiful face. And she does advertise her bosoms on most of her videos. So that's what people are thinking about. So are we now accepting people with beautiful bosoms now? That's the category. I can definitely understand the bias, but
well,
it is.
Well, if you think about it, right? I have my own bias, but irrespective of how we feel about that this video, I mean this whole gist, the reality is we look at the facts, right? The facts and the requirement is that you have influence, you have an art, you have some level of media relevance. If you look at the requirement as well, that you're earning above other people in that industry. So other influencers within that industry, within that space, she's anywhere above them, and she's able to meet the requirement. For me, that's where it blows my mind. But just to see that there's always a gray area in policies and laws and all of these requirements, eligibilities that are being set out there. Some things are not really cast in stone because the environment, or let's say the ecosystem, is changing. Do you get what I'm saying? A couple of years ago, there was nothing like social media influencers. Do you get what I'm saying? Several years ago. Right now, it's huge. Do you get what I'm saying? What the future holds. Now we're talking about AI. We're talking about we're talking about AI. We're talking about quantum computer and the like. Do you get what I'm saying? There were a couple of years ago, these things were just a dream. Also with the level and the reach of social media. I don't want to digress, but this silent influencer on TikTok, Kabilim or something like that, he just sold I don't know, right or something. I made millions of dollars. Like, come on, man. This was a guy that had no job, that lost his job during COVID, that was just decided to go online and do social media. And now the guy is the biggest on TikTok. And today is worth millions and millions of dollars for not saying a word. Just, and so which is the fact, like, hate it or like it, the reality is that guy's a millionaire. When that guy was in the US, there was a story about him, about his visa. I don't want to digress, but I know a lot of people know that story about, he was arrested by ICE and they said, hey, listen, guys, I'll straight to the airport, I'll leave your country. I don't want any issues with, the US immigration and all that. And he left. But going back to, the gist, the reality is times have changed. Eligibility requirements are not cast in stone as they used to, especially for arts and careers or professions that are not really measured in the way we understand measurement, typically around science and technology and the rest. this is different, right? Is she in the media space? Yes. Is she popular or famous? We can say yes because she has videos that have done 11 million views. How many people have done 11 million views? So the argument, even if you have great talent, you might not be able to pull that kind of, virality. Who is to be blamed? You have access to algorithm to influence that, to do any of that. Well, no one is to be blamed. It's just what it is. And she's able to get it. And now, the story is all over the place. People are angry about it, but it's wild. But I still just find it very interesting.
Yeah. So the question is, so that means with her being successful with this kind of application, that means many other influencers are going to be applying for that visa. The question is, what's the benefit for the United States?
What's the benefit? That's a good question, Wally. What's the benefit for the United States? The reality is this. I don't know. But what I think is, because being in the United States, she's going to promote, let's take for instance, she's a glam influencer, right? She's going to promote products, right? She's got reach globally, right? People are going to buy this product globally. The company is going to generate revenue. That is a simple example.
Because they can do that.
But the Americans, listen, there's a large, huge, massive array of products out there, companies out there looking for opportunity to reach customers. Yes, there might be Americans that can do that, but this is an extra.
Lots of beautiful American women, by the way.
Yes, but not all the beautiful American women have viral video that have
lots of beautiful American women that have viral video that are posted way more than 11 million.
They have that. It's the same way. It's like the talents that we're talking about. The talent pool is not enough. It's the same thing that makes Americans
go it's not comparable. So what I'm trying to say is that, like,
okay, let me get your take.
Is that with the talent pool, there's a gap in productivity.
Okay.
It's this pool with influencers. There are so many influencers in the United States. So many. Many of them, yes, maybe they might not be pulling. I think it's not restricted to the United States. Generally in the world of influencers, most of them do not make money, but you do have a lot that actually make money. Now, they sell products on behalf of companies. Most of them sell products on behalf, the successful ones anyway. They sell products on behalf of companies to, especially women, young women, and sometimes to men, but most of the products are directed towards women. That has always, I don't think there's a lack of talent in that area, if that makes sense. There's no lack of beautiful women that are influencers to promote products in the United States.
But they might not be able to promote products in Canada. She has the influence because she's Canadian. She has the influence both in America and Canada because some of her videos have been shot in New York and the like, right?
You don't need the external visa. It's actually an immigrant visa. You don't need that to be able to do, if it's just an.
For her to be able to earn and work in the US, she needs that. Yeah.
No, you don't need that. You can, whatever it is that you need to promote can be done right there in Canada, and you can be paid right there.
Box. I think
I'm not talking about the box. I'm talking about the need as a whole. So if we talk about, like, if we want to compare, like, how does bringing in a lot of influencers benefit the United States? So that's the question, right?
No, I don't think the United States is going to bring a lot of influencers, but I get
she's the first one, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to apply.
Of course.
Her. So how does that benefit the United States compared to other people with extraordinary abilities in other fields?
I think we should throw this question to our audience who are watching. But moving on to some good news, some positive news. Let's move on to some positive news. So something interesting, right? While every other country are closing the door, Canada is opening ours, right? If you speak French, you might be able to get visa and go to Canada for those intending to immigrate, right? So Canada recently this January announced a 5,000 extra PR for Francophone speaking individuals who would like to move to places outside Quebec. And this is also to kind of meet the quota, to kind of stretch and meet the quota, because in the last year, 2025, they kind of exceeded the quota, but in 2026, they want to actually try to meet not necessarily exceed the quota, but also to make sure that places outside Quebec can benefit from French speaking immigrants moving to those neighborhoods to be able to fill the gap for jobs and the like that they need in those areas. Wale, what do you think about this story?
Yeah, so for those that are not really aware about how Canada is sort of separated into French speaking and also English speaking parts. So if you speak French, then you move to there's definitely a huge need for people who are French speaking, and so but they usually get a lot more people who speak English than French, which is, I'm not sure why that is, but that's just the situation. And the PR is the permanent residency. The short form is PR. So for me, I think it is something that is definitely a fantastic opportunity for those who are still looking to move. While the United States is this way, there's still a lot of opportunity in Canada for if you speak French, if you are whether it doesn't really matter where you're from, you just need to make sure that you meet the qualifications to be able to apply. That's something we just discussed. The last topic of discussion was that we had was that like, oh, that this kind of qualification for this kind of visa might be a little bit different or might be interpreted differently. Usually with Canada, there are interpretations are usually very, very direct. Like it's very straightforward. Do you meet the qualification or not? That's pretty much it. So you have some sort of skills, people should be looking out for. And Canada, well, if you're moving from a place like Nigeria, beware, it's very cold in Canada. So that's something that you should be aware of.
But moving on from Canada, our final topic for the day is if Canada is not your vibe right now, how about Finland, right? Currently, Finland is running a 2-week visa campaign for tech talent and entrepreneurs, right? We know what's happening currently in the US. There's a lot of talents that are leaving the US, a lot of talent that can come into the US and are looking for where to go. Finland is one of them. But honestly, I think this is also an idea and also an opportunity in Finland.
Yes, Finland is one of those countries where Finland is beautiful. By the way, I've been there. I think I spent like 3 days or so there, just to visit and check out the city. Helsinki is beautiful. It's one of the is in one of the coldest regions in the world, but summer is very, very, very nice. The people there, it takes some time for them to warm up to you, but eventually, like when you get to know them, they are very, very friendly. It's definitely a place I can recommend to anyone who would love to move there.
That's interesting. Well, I never knew you've been to Finland. I knew you went around Europe, but we never meant talk to me about Finland. Really?
Yeah, it was an interesting journey. Like when I went, I had planned to stay with someone. I think I had planned to stay with someone because I got a contact of the person through someone else. So I ended up not staying in Helsinki, but moving a bit further to a different city to go and stay. So it was a long journey. So I was able to stay with this family who was also an immigrant family, by the way, but they were very, very nice. They have been living in Finland for many years. They're originally from Eastern Europe. I think either from Moldova or Ukraine, one of those countries there.
Mm.
But eventually they've now settled. They're doing really, really well. So by when they heard that I was coming over, they were very happy to welcome me. It was quite a very, very interesting journey for me, like, to go
Nice.
there and really experience the culture. And then I went. Then the second day I went into the city to explore the city. They have a very nice Christmas town. Also, when I think I went during Christmas, if I remember correctly. So it's very, very nice. It's a beautiful place. I recommend if you have tech talent, you are into whether it's AI, whether it's software engineering. There's a lot of AI involved right now. Whether you're directly or indirectly involved as an AI engineer, yeah, you're going to love living in Finland. The tech environment has always been growing, and I've known that for a very long time. So this is just one of the push. I think the reason is that they've been seeing a lot of gains in bringing the best talent in the world to Finland, and so right now they want to take the opportunity to attract people that might want to move away from the US to a different country. So um,
Yeah, you're right about that, because if you read even furthermore about this 2 weeks visa thing they're offering it along with the promotion is more along with work life balance, right? Because generally we talked about the also culture in America. We didn't necessarily compare it with Europe when we talked earlier in our conversation, but it is something they're also pushing to say, hey, we have a great work life balance. But the crazy thing about this 2 week visa that they're offering, they recently also just moved their permanent residency requirement to 6 years. So it's like test the waters. You get the 2 weeks visa, you get a job, you go to Finland. It's like you're testing the water. You stay a few years and like maybe this is this is for me. This is not for me. Then you can decide what to do next. But if this is for me, then okay, I need to stay and work for about 6 years to get my final permanent residency. But nevertheless, I still think it's a great idea because there are a lot of digital nomads out there. Even if it was going to be less than, even if it was less than 6 years, to get the permanent residency, there are so many people that will probably still just move around depending on the opportunities they find. But I think it's a great opportunity that Finland have kind of thrown out there. Please check the description down. Click the link on the description to kind of read and learn more about this offer from Finland.
Yes, we'll try to leave the links to everything that we talked about and today, so that you'll be able to do a lot more research, please, into all these topics before you go further to apply. Make sure you actually have the right tools or the requirements for whether it's a visa or whether it's a permanent resident that you want to apply for. Always do your own research to make sure you have everything. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
that's
want.
it. Thank you very much, Wally. Thanks again, everyone that's watching. Please like and subscribe to our channels. We're going to bring you great content around the world and have a blast.
Yes. Finally, from me, this is something that is a little bit different from the way that we're doing things. So this year we are delving more into the podcast style of bringing you information and educative and also entertaining news around the world. Uh, we hope that we are able to bring a lot of value to you. If you find value in what we do, please support us. Like Precious said, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right, and have a good one.